Wow, so it's now been over a week since the race has ended. It was really hard coming back to reality. Real life was tough after being in Colorado, being able to ride every day, focusing on riding, the atmosphere, the environment out there. Colorado is truly amazing. This was literally, I want to say it's a once in a life opportunity, but honestly, I hope I get to go back. I enjoyed this race so much that I don't think I've ever done a race that hard that once I crossed the finish line, I told everybody I'm ready to do it again. I'm ready, I'll come back. So I want to start off by saying that I know this video has been really delayed, and I apologize for that. I already gave my excuse about real life, so I won't go any further into that. What I do want to say though is that the week of the race, I made the decision not to put my GoPro on the bike during the race. I understand that's going to make this video probably less exciting. It's just you can't record the whole race, so you're constantly stopping and starting recording, thinking about batteries, thinking about when to record, taking your hands off the bars. I just didn't want that distraction. So I didn't want to take anything away from focusing on the race. So I decided that I would just give the camera to my support crew and let them record from their point of view, and then I could come in and add some information to let you know what was happening while I was out during the race, and they could fill us in during the race. Good morning and welcome to today's video. Today is Saturday. It is the day of the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race. It's currently what, like 41, 42 degrees, so we're a little bit overdressed this morning, but we're gonna strip down at the start. St. Kevin's comes just a couple miles into the race, so hopefully that'll warm us up. And I'm turning the camera over to Bryce and Sean for the rest of the day so that I can race. That's it.
You get to look at my mug.
That's right.
What you say, Nate?
Cold. Just another day.
Just another day. What do you think, Kevin?
Oh my God,
Let's do this. We're here. I'm here. A couple of people ready to ride bikes today. We'll go ride.
What about your crew chief here? How's she feeling?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I have practiced all summer for this day.
Good. I
Dave's
think.
ready. What does Frank say?
Frank's out to poop.
So first off, I started in the Blue Corral. If you don't know, the Blue Corral is second to last, okay? So it was blue and then white. I was already a little bit nervous about starting that far back. Nathan started one corral ahead of me, and then Kevin and Frank were a corral ahead of him. My biggest fear was honestly the bottleneck at Kevin's. When the race started, it was about 42 degrees outside. I wore a pair of sweatpants and a jacket to the start line that I gave to Sean whenever we had to get ready. Beyond that, for the actual race, I wore my normal bibs, my normal jersey. Then I chose to wear my arm warmers and a vest, and I wore normal long finger summer gloves. I always wear those mountain biking. And I chose to wear wool socks. My feet don't usually get too hot when I race, so I knew that that would help me in the morning and it wouldn't bother me later in the day. It was expected to be pretty warm for Leadville. I think 75 degrees is about where it got up to, and people were saying that was hot. Well, where I come from, you know, we ride in about 100 degrees with 97% humidity, so it wasn't really that hot to us. When the race got started, we have about 3 miles of paved downhill, and it was fast and it was cold. I decided not to be too aggressive in this section. I wanted to basically just maintain my position, not get passed by too many people, not get too far behind, and be safe mostly. I didn't want to have anyone wreck into me, anything careless to happen like that, so I just pretty much played it safe. Once we got to the dirt road that leads up to St. Kevin's, it was an instant bottleneck. Somebody pretty much hit that dirt and instantly crashed right in the middle of the group. So I had to put a foot down right there, but I was able to just put a foot down for a second and kind of go around. By this point, my hands are completely frozen, and you really can't feel your brakes very well when your hands are frozen, when your fingers are frozen. So I don't know if that contributed to other people crashing there or what. This is a really fast road, so I just kept going, and I just started passing people. And then when we got to the bottom of St. Kevin's, when it gets to the steep part, it was very slow going. I put it in my 50 tooth gear, And I mean, I was doing everything I could to focus on the tire in front of me, not to hit them. And then there were a couple times where I had to get off and push because that's what everybody in front was doing. That actually happened a couple times over the course of getting towards the top of Keevens, when it kind of like when it stops to be so steep after you hit that switchback. Once I got there, mostly it was single file climbing. So again, I'm stuck at the pace of the group that I'm in. I later looked at the splits between me and Nathan and Kevin and Frank, and all of them were able to climb to Carter Summit within about the same time, and I was 9 minutes behind them. I truly feel that that 9 minutes can be accredited to being in the corral I was in and being in that group I was in on St. Keevens. I really feel like had I been in that corral with them, I don't think that would have been 9 minutes at all. I had been told by listening to the Fat Cyclist podcast that Mary Lee was on the top of St. Keevens somewhere, so I was kind of looking for her. Well, when you start to get ready to make that turn, I saw her on the left and she was letting people know there was a sharp right-hand turn. And when I saw her, I yelled out, "I love you, Mary Lee," because that's what the Fat Cyclist did. Well, I make the turn and then I see Ken. And it's just, everyone's quiet. Everyone's just going through the gate, not making any noise, not excited to be there. And I'm like, come on, this is Ken and Mary Lee. So I yell, "Yeah, Ken, yeah." And he yells something back to me like, "Yeah, go get it, baby girl." And like literally, that's all I thought about, probably until Twin Lakes. I was so pumped about that. I thought it was so cool. I had a pretty good feeling that I could shoot for 10 hours and 59 minutes. Carter Summit, I was a couple minutes off, but I didn't really panic too much. So I went down the paved descent after Carter Summit and started the Hagerman's climb. Not a lot to report in that area. Once I started to climb Hagerman's and Sugarloaf, I started passing quite a bit of people. And I was not taking the smoothest line on Sugarloaf in order to pass people, but I was trucking along at a pretty good pace and I felt good. It wasn't like I was putting out any kind of excessive effort that I didn't need to be doing. Everything felt good. Once I got to the top and started the descent for Powerline, I started to realize I consider myself to be a pretty slow descender, but honestly, a lot of the people around me were even slower than me. I kind of expected that because I've heard things in the past about that. Part of it is that it's early, the sun was in our eyes, they're just playing it safe, you know, it's early in the race. So that's something to consider. If you're a really good descender and you're in the back, that's something you're either gonna have to aggressively pass people in a bad line, or you might want to, you know, do everything you can to get a better corral position. I got down Powerline without any issues, sailed right down it, made the turn, hit the road, and I found a really good group and we were rolling. There was a guy in the front who was just doing an all-out pull. I was probably riding pretty close to my limit there. So I went ahead and set in, and the pace actually slowed down just a hair and it was perfect. Once we made the turn off the road and we hit the gravel, headed up to Pipeline, we kind of disbanded. Some people went on, I passed some people, and from there on, it was pretty much just rolling. It's not nearly as congested at this point. I didn't need any aid at Pipeline, so I carried on. I wasn't gonna aid till the Twin Lakes, Lost Canyon. So I pretty much just cruised from here on out. Nothing really crazy to report between Pipeline and Twin Lakes.
We're driving out to Lost Canyon for the sag out here. Looks like there's several vehicles in front of us, but not too bad. Most of them turned off at Powerline and Twin Lakes, so I think we'll be able to get a good spot. Look at the mountains. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous out here. So both Christy and Frank were great spirits this morning. Christy was ready to start racing like right out of bed, I think. So that's good to see that she feels prepared and ready. She was happy. I'm just glad to be a part to help. I get to yell at my friends, call them bad names, and they just have to take it. So
when I got to Twin Lakes, I actually had to kind of go through Twin Lakes a little bit slower. I guess people were probably kind of just riding at their pace, looking around for their crew, but my crew wasn't there, so I just wanted to, you know, head on out. I got to Twin Lakes, Lost Canyon, which is about 43 miles in. And I got off my bike, and while I was off my bike, the guys lubed my chain. They took my Camelback and put some water in it. They took the trash out of my pocket, gave me some new goos, and I took a pickle juice shot, and I ate a Scratch Labs bar. Now, I really had to pee. For some reason, they wouldn't let me go to the porta potty, and they made a circle with like jackets and stuff to block, and I just peed pretty much in front of everybody at Twin Lakes, Lost Canyon. So if I exposed myself to anyone, I'm sorry. They made me pee out in the open. That's part of life, I guess. So I headed up the Columbine mine climb. Got back on my bike and headed up the Columbine mine climb. I started and I knew the bottom was a little bit steeper and it's gonna level off a little bit, so I kept that in mind as I was climbing, but I was feeling pretty good, honestly. My calves were kind of telling me that there could be possible cramps in the near future, so I was also keeping that in mind. I actually got behind a guy who was riding a Niner bike, and the pros had started to descend once we were at the bottom of Columbine, so we were having to be pretty careful with passing. And he was making moves and then getting back in line, and I just kind of started following his moves. I followed him up until the goat trail, actually. Right before we got to where the tree line ends, I saw a woman ahead of me that I was passing. And I was like, she looks familiar. Well, I passed her and I turned around and looked back behind me at her face. And I asked her what her name was. And she told me her name was Roxanne. Well, if any of you guys have ever watched the Race Across the Sky movies, Roxanne is in it. And she broke her back during a training ride. A car actually hit her. And she tells a story about coming back from that and training for the Leadville race. And her husband is in it as well. And it's a pretty inspirational story. And so I talked to her for a minute, and she explained to me how she was on her 17th Leadville. And I was like, this is so cool. It's kind of like meeting a celebrity in a way. I've watched the Race Across the Sky movies. I watch them multiple times a year. So seeing Roxanne out there was really cool. But we started to get to where the first steep part pitches up, and I could already see people getting off their bikes. And from the movies, I already knew, you walk it. It's hard to climb it because you got two-way traffic. It's loose. A lot of times you have to walk because the people in front of you are walking, and I was okay with that anyways. I didn't want to put any big efforts up at 12,000 foot of elevation. So I get off my bike and I'm walking. Well, here comes Roxanne right behind me, and she's just pedaling up it. And she pedals up it as far as she can until really people get in the way. I was pretty impressed with Roxanne. Pretty much what you're doing is you're pushing sections, then you're getting back on the bike, and you're riding for as long as you can until it gets too steep, and then you're pushing, you're going back and forth, basically until you get to the very top where you can ride for a little bit, then you ride down into the aid station. And I literally rode into that aid station, made the turn, and rode right back up and got out of there. I decided it was not worth aiding right there because I could sag again at Twin Lakes, and it doesn't take that long to get down the descent, and I didn't think I was gonna catch my breath or recover much at 12,400 foot. So I headed back down the descent. I took the descent pretty safely. When I got back down to the road, when you start doing the switchbacks, a guy behind me actually crashed, and I turned around and looked, and it looked pretty rough.
Hey everybody, we just left Lost Canyon. They are in the process of climbing Columbine. They're expecting it to be about a 2.5 hour climb, a 30-minute descent, then 30 minutes across back to Twin Lakes. We are going to stop on the backside of Twin Lakes after that cutoff to make sure and sag them again. So all of them are ahead of their schedule where they wanted to be. Looked like Nathan took a little bit of a tumble and got his little bit busted up lip. They all came in, we got them all lubed up, cleaned up, swapped out, and ready to go. Just keep these guys going. They're doing great so far. I'm proud of all of them.
My crew moved from Lost Canyon to the other side of Twin Lakes.
We are at the past Twin Lakes. You can see Twin Lakes in the dam across over there. Look at the beauty out here. Yeah, buddy, high five. Yeah, that's my dude.
Thanks for being out here.
Yep, that's my dude right there.
Woo! Go team! Woo!
Woo!
Team win ways!
Yeah. Let's go, Breaker!
Come on, girl! Come on, girl!
Breaker's obviously in the house.
Yeah!
This was supposed to be my longer sag of the day. I got off the bike, they lubed my chain again, I ate some ramen noodles, and I wanted to talk for a little bit. Honestly, the truth is, at this point, I was 20 minutes ahead of my 10 hour and 59 minute pace. I was pretty excited about that. I felt pretty good climbing up Columbine. I passed a ton of people, and so I made up a bunch of time. I was trying to tell my Roxanne story, but Sean didn't want to have any of it, and he forced me to get back on my bike, and I headed back out. The section between Twin Lakes and Pipeline, sometimes it can be brutal. People don't realize that it's harder in that direction. The single track section's uphill. There's a couple of uphill climbs. There's a couple of little steep climbs. I feel like you're generally ascending for most of that section. And a lot of times you get a headwind. Somehow we didn't have a headwind, we have a tailwind. I didn't push the pace too much. I kept a steady pace going, but I didn't want to overdo it. I stopped on the road a couple miles before Powerline and took my third sag. I didn't really need a lot because I took a shot of pickle juice back at Twin Lakes, and it wasn't my pickle juice, and I think it was a little bit too much for my stomach. I actually had to back off my nutrition just a bit, and I drank a little bit extra water than what I was drinking. And I kind of had like a stomach pain, and that kind of helped it go away. The road up to Powerline was kind of tiring. I forgot how much downhill there actually was just to the base of Powerline when I was going out. Coming into Powerline, I got off and started pushing with everybody else. Bryce and Sean walked up it with me for a little bit. I just kind of put my head down because it was so steep and just pushed and chugged along, and Bryce gave me another Coke, but it was really hard to drink because my heart rate was so high. It was actually kind of hot at this point, and I was pushing a bike. So I pushed up to the top of that steep part, and what a lot of people don't realize is that that's not the end of the Powerline climb. Once you get to that steep part, you have a little downhill, but you immediately start climbing again. So pretty much for the next couple miles, you're climbing, and then you're off the bike pushing. You go back and forth quite a bit. Well, here comes Roxanne again. I'm probably pushing my bike up a section, and here comes Roxanne just climbing it. She was climbing stuff that nobody else was climbing, or she was trying to climb stuff that nobody else was climbing. It was very impressive and very inspiring. And it kind of got to the point where I'd get off my bike and push, and she would climb up faster than me, and then I'd get back on my bike and catch up to her, and we kept yo-yoing like that. So at one point I started telling myself, like, you need to climb this on your bike because Roxanne's going to catch back up to you. Powerline was grueling. It just seemed like it went on forever. I mean, forever. People probably stress the most about Columbine Mine, but honestly, that's nothing compared to Powerline. Powerline is where the pain's at. You gotta remember, you're at mile 80 in the race when you hit this. It was tough. It was really tough. I saw one of the last Powerline poles and I knew this was the top. And we got back on our bikes and we started the Sugarloaf descent. Sugarloaf descent is not fun. It is not fun at all. You wanna know why? Literally, it's very bumpy because it's rocks embedded in the ground. Everything hurts. Your arms hurt, your face hurts, everything hurts at this point. So that descent, you just want that descent to be over. It hurts that bad. Unfortunately, my rear brake had gotten a little bit soft. It was still working, but it just wasn't working as good as it should have been. So I kind of took that descent a little bit slower. And then once you descend Sugarloaf and Hagerman's, you start the road climb back up to Carter Summit. A lot of people were really dreading this climb. It's about a 3-mile climb on the road. All I did was I locked my suspension out on my Trek and just grinded it out. I was feeling good, I was passing people. When I got to the top of Carter Summit, I stopped for a minute, ate a piece of watermelon, and basically started, getting ready to head down Keevens. I knew you kind of ride a little bit at the top of Keevens, so there's some climbing, there's some descent, you're kind of going back and forth. I think I had to push one section. As soon as I got off my bike and pushed it, Roxanne showed up, she passed me, and once we got on the real part of the descent, she took off, she was gone. At this point, you're pretty tired and you know the finish line is close. When I made that turn by the rodeo, I knew I was close. I did that last climb on the road and the descent into the finish line. There's people everywhere. They're yelling, they're cheering for you. I crossed the finish line, I got on the red carpet. I was happy, but I wasn't emotional like I thought I might be. I didn't really know if I would be though, because I don't normally get super emotional at the end of the race. My finishing time was 10 hours and 39 minutes, so 20 minutes faster than my goal, which I couldn't be more happy with that. My legs hurt really bad, but overall I felt good for as hard of a race that was. My TSS, which is my training stress score, Leadville Trail 100 was 545 TSS for me. So officially my hardest ride ever. This is it, the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race buckle. All of that was for this. Training for 8 months was to get this buckle. Job well done. That was really it for my race recap. It was an awesome event. Truly life-changing. Colorado, I've never been to Colorado before, so the whole trip was, I understand that if I come back and race Leadville again, I will not have the same experience, because this coming out as a first timer in Colorado, a first timer at Leadville, that's kind of that's really a once in a lifetime experience. If I come back again, it's gonna be a different experience, I know that, but I still believe it will be truly incredible. We couldn't have made this possible without all the support of all the people that came out to help us during the race, and also all the people back home who supported us throughout the year. And thanks to you guys for watching these videos. It's really motivated me. Thanks for watching, thanks for all the support. Please continue to watch and subscribe because I've got more stuff that I'm doing. I'm gonna have some more videos coming out focused around Leadville. I wanna talk a little bit more about what it's like after the race. And also I wanna give you some tips on, what I learned from Leadville. I'll see you guys next time.